Do I have to join the Zoom as well?
No, because we're both here, otherwise.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. So it's not streaming. Oh, it does. It's very slow. Let me just try opening something here.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see how it
And
takes
I
in.
can watch it on here and just make it quiet.
It's way behind. Okay. Multiple streams using the same stream key with auto start enabled. Right.
What did we do last time?
We're live. I think we're live.
Okay.
So what are we doing for headphones?
I thought just the mic.
People couldn't hear us very good last time. People won't be able to hear. Oh, it doesn't matter. It says it's waiting. It's waiting for me to go live.
I think so. I'll quit that.
It says end stream. Okay, here we go.
Uh-huh. Okay, so we should be live.
Okay, but you're not in there. So maybe you need to refresh.
That might just be mine. I'm sure people are enjoying this little conversation. It's weird how it doesn't show anything. Just
Refresh on the page. It's still trying to load. There it is. So there's some people live on here.
okay.
Let me just move this over here.
So can they actually hear us?
Oh, it's the wrong video. I don't know if they can hear us or not.
Shall we ask them?
It's way behind. Okay, so I need to find the. Hello, are you guys able to hear us? We're just trying to get everything set up now, and we want to make sure everybody can hear us.
And we're just not sure, because we can see people chatting, but we don't know if they can hear us.
And it looks like things are going kind of slowly on our end, so we want to make sure that everything is set up properly. I think there's a bit of a delay in the screen.
Because that person said hi here, but doesn't even show up in that list.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, great. Okay, thank you. So we will go ahead and get started then.
Yeah. All right.
Okay.
Welcome to Viz Review.
So it's been a while since I've done Viz Review. I don't quite remember how this works, but yeah, I'm Andy Kriebel. I'm the head coach of the Information Lab Data School, and joining Eva this week on Viz review.
Yeah, you sound really enthusiastic about this as well. But while Charlie is hiking in Scotland, we're going to talk about Scotland and the state of the digital nation. And you've already looked at this data on Monday, didn't you?
Yeah.
Did your Viz live? I have not even done it, but I haven't had time. Okay, so that's the Viz. We're gonna look at making over, and we're gonna look at what people have created.
Okay, so it looks like we're going to start with Shreya. So
Sure.
let's go ahead and.
Oh, she didn't include a link.
That's fine. We can just review the picture instead.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it helps to include the links so we know what we're looking at. Okay. So distribution of IT companies in different areas of Scotland. Okay. Right. I guess first off, why are some of the areas in Scotland like a swirly gray or something? I find it quite difficult to associate the map with the bar chart on the right. So that'd be the first thing I would think, and then I think that the second thing is I don't know why it has to repeat the word companies everywhere. You've got distribution of IT companies in the subtitle, which is good, but why not just put the name of the region, the bar, and then put the number of companies on the end, or maybe just don't repeat the word companies everywhere.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think the color is transparent on top of some sort of topographical map, and the dark grey ones are just not colored. But I find the overall, I mean, the design is nice and clean, but I find the font pretty hard to read because it's quite like compact,
Skinny.
Like it's all kind of a bit squished together, the style, and like what does it tell me? It just tells me where companies are or how many companies are where. I'd imagine that's based on the spread of the population. So, is that a good representation? I don't know. Like I don't find it particularly insightful, but maybe that's all there is in the data. Okay, everyone can hear us. That's good. Yeah, but design-wise, I like how clean it is and the use of white space. I personally, I haven't been to Scotland myself. I also don't know much about the different regions, so it's hard for me, especially when they all have the same shade of purple, to know which one is which.
Yeah.
But maybe in the interactive version you can hover, so that might be okay.
Okay. Let's see. Okay, so this one has a link. This is Kamlesh Sharma.
Mm-hmm. So I've tried to put together a collection that has lots of different types of Vizes. I don't know if we'll get through all of them. Let's see.
Okay.
Is there a title?
So yeah, I don't have any idea what this is about.
I see a map.
That could be Iceland. It could be Greenland. It could be
Nepal.
A state.
Could be
anything. Could be anything. Yeah.
I think it's maybe Tableau Public not rendering, because in the preview, like I'm bringing this up on a separate screen, it actually had like a little tag. Yeah, maybe what if you hit refresh? Ah, there it came. There you go. Okay, so there is a title. I don't understand the different colors because so there's different counties that are colored, but what does the color mean? And the circles don't have colors, so I don't understand why the words have color.
Basically, this is exactly like the original. There's not really much of a makeover. It's kind of a make again.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. It's just I don't know. The map doesn't add anything for me. The location. So I typically only include a map if the location is important. So what's important in this? The location or the number of companies? So I would say probably the number of companies.
Yeah. And because the location, I mean, if it's about Scotland, you don't need to show that it's a map of Scotland. Like, telling people it's Scotland is enough. One thing I'd also reconsider is the font choice for the title. It makes me think of the A-Team. It doesn't make me think of Scotland. So, yeah. Okay.
Okay, so let's go to the next one. Feedback.
I've turned my speakers up.
Okay. So.
Okay, the voice is a little low, but.
Okay, we can hold the microphone up.
Yeah.
Sorry, we only have one headset. We're trying to share.
Akriti Tiwari. Okay, so I saw a couple of these radial bar charts. I don't know why they keep popping up. I've not yet seen a use case where I thought they were the best choice, but they keep popping up. So I guess we'll keep giving our feedback. So I wonder. So last weekend you created a viz where you talked about I think like 80% or something of company. It was 80% of something. I don't know. Is created by something like it was something about the Pareto principle, and now I feel that people are trying to see something. It's like, does it matter that 70% of tech companies are based in however you pronounce the first place, Glasgow and Aberdeenshire? Midlothian. Thank you. I just don't know if that's particularly insightful. Like, what is it about these 70%, or what is it about those three regions? Well, it's probably that most of the people live there. Yeah.
It does give it a bit of context, though. So, having just the numbers there, 603, 498, it's a number, right? And you got the total number of companies at the top, but it does help give it a bit of context. As far as I don't have any idea why there's a radial bar chart on the right.
Because you could just put that percentage next to the number on the bar chart.
Yeah, it could say something like 603, slash 32%. It would be perfectly fine without the radial bar chart. It's not. You're basically representing the data two different ways, and that doesn't really add any value. So now, if you want to practice building a radial bar chart, that's great. I'm all for that, but I don't think it adds any value. And also, the radial bar chart, 32% goes 3/4 of the way around, which I would associate with 75%, not with 32%.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah. Okay. Then we have K. And we had quite a few visits like that where we have a map and a bar chart, so I didn't pick each one of them because I think the same feedback applies, for the different styles. Now, a lot of the maps I've seen, they look nice in terms of their design, but do they really add much value? And I think for a country like Scotland, where I assume most of us don't know that much about, maybe adding the major cities would be helpful for context, because, that's probably where those blue areas are, where all the people are. I keep repeating myself.
Yeah. I don't think I have much more to add. Again, the map, we're basically double encoding the data again. You've got again, use a map if location's important. That's about it.
Okay, let's move on to the next one.
But I do think the colors on this one work really well together.
Yeah.
They contrast nice, even with the dark background. The gray and the blue, the bluish colors stand out well.
They're easy to see, which is really, really helpful. It's very quiet in the chat without Rodrigo. Have you noticed that?
It's nice.
Rodrigo and Caesar, you are missed. Okay. Okay, so this is from Boris. Scotland is the UK Silicon Valley. I haven't read. Was there an article that said that?
No.
Okay. I wonder.
That's a pretty grand assumption.
It's a grand assumption, especially because I don't see that substantiated by the data. Okay, so we can see. Oh. Okay. And
it's basically letting you pick each box. Okay, whatever.
I don't know what to make of this one.
it's quite colorful.
That's true.
Too colorful. Okay, there's a fact there that 49% of these IT companies, there's 1,863 in this data set. I would imagine there's been more than 1,863 IT companies founded in Scotland.
Probably.
So that's of the existing IT companies, 49% have been around more than 10 years.
Yeah.
So be careful with the word usage there. I feel like I'm playing Tetris.
Yeah. I was trying to figure out what it was, but Tetris is a good reference here. I think the colors, like it's just a bit much. And what does it actually tell us? Plus, yeah, like I said before, the claim in the title isn't really supported by the data, because unless you compare it to the rest of the UK, the other countries in the UK, how can you say that it's the Silicon Valley of the UK?
There's also a typo. It should be percent, not procent.
And in the color legend, the region should be Glasgow with one S.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. So that, I don't know. It's for me, it's way too colorful.
Yeah. Okay, so Vaishnavi. So this one, in principle, I guess it's like a simple bar chart, but they overlap, which is the bit I don't really understand.
Yeah, there's no reason for them to overlap. It just looks like they were just sort of smushed together for some reason. And it says 1863/100% Scotland. What in the world does that mean?
Yeah.
And how do I know which region is which? Because they're just a bunch of bars standing next to each other.
Yeah, and I think that given the amount of amount of data in this data set, it's just the regions or counties and the number of companies. You don't actually need it to be interactive. But if I look at this as a picture, I wouldn't understand it. I need the interactivity, I would think, to know, what each bar is. But even if I hover, I don't get told what it is. I have to click on it, because it says hover over the bar. Ah, okay, the hover does work. But that seems like a lot of effort for something that could be made immediately obvious if it was just printed on there.
Yeah, I mean, I think the big text looks really nice, but it's too much work to get to that text.
Yeah.
I would just make it a horizontal bar chart and show the names of the regions and call it a day.
Yep. That's what I might just do when I build mine eventually. Okay, we have this.
I guess another tip for when you're doing Makeover Monday, I would assume, so make the assumption that your audience is not going to click on the viz. If you look at Twitter interactions on your tweets, people don't click through links. So if I look at the last one as a picture, I'm just going to go right past it because I don't know what it's about.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's a good tip because also your links on Twitter give a preview, but that's typically a pretty bad snapshot of the viz. It's just like a little crop. So I would always post a picture and you add the link, but most people don't click through to them. What do you call those charts? Is that a Sankey? Is that like a half Sankey?
It's I would call it I don't know which line goes with which region chart.
Yeah. Because they all end at the same point, and then there's circles over the map, but the circles are not connected to these regions.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to do the curvy lines because it spreads them out nice and neat on the right-hand side, that's great, but make sure they point to the correct dot. And then it looks like it needs a bit more space on the right-hand side anyway, so that the Stirlingshire and Clackmannanshire have enough room to the right of the line. So that one's the only one that's below the line.
What's borders? Is that like the very last item?
I don't know. Scottish border? I don't know. Must be, I don't know what Borders means, but maybe it's the name of the town. But yeah, you've got a map with some circles, and you have, a bunch of squiggly lines, and then some regions with some numbers. But I don't see how any of that connects together.
And the challenge here is because the lines are all the same, like thickness and stuff, it's not obvious that the regions are sorted from like in descending order with the largest to the smallest. I need to read every single number to then compare them and make sense of them. This is another example where a bar chart would be the easiest way to understand the data.
Yeah, and looking at the title, it's asking a question, but there's no question mark. Make sure you're using the proper casing. So, this is mixing, uppercase, lowercase, so you have to make sure you're using the correct casing. There's lots of websites where you could put this in and use like AP style or different things. And then the text below that, it says, as per Data Scotland. What's Data Scotland? Do you know what Data Scotland is?
As per, what it's meant to be is, as per the data, comma, Scotland has 1,863 companies.
Okay, and so companies shouldn't be capitalized then either.
Yeah.
So lots of extra spaces and things. So yeah, just check the grammar and things.
Yeah. Can I have a cookie?
Can you have a what?
A cookie? Oh. All right. So the next one is from Lauren. And she created 4 charts out of this data, which is impressive. Michelle wants a cookie as well. I would send you one, Michelle, but they might not make it. I'm sorry, I'm chewing.
Okay. Yeah, so we've talked about the map already. All the colors pretty much look the same, except for 2 of them. Ask yourself, what value does the map add? If you took the map away, would it change the analysis? The per 1,000, the per 10,000 inhabitants, where did that data come from? Okay, I didn't see that in the data set, and these are like combinations of regions. So, I mean, if it's accurate, great. It's an interesting stat, companies per 10,000 inhabitants. It certainly doesn't need to be to 3 decimal places.
My German brain was thinking that's thousands. Yeah, I was thinking it was a comma.
And I don't know what the colors mean there. And is the color even necessary? So I think this is trying to overanalyze the data. A bar chart is way better than a tree map. You see the tree map doesn't even show some of the labels and things. I don't understand why, is it important? Is there an important relationship between population size and I'm guessing what do you think the left-hand side is on that? Is it a number of companies or something, I guess?
Yeah.
So I don't see why that's important. There's no relationship, so I probably wouldn't include it. I mean, again, I would make the tree map a bar chart, and then, and maybe and the 10,000 per 10,000 inhabitants, but I don't think the map and the scatter plot are necessary.
Yeah, and I think, we would expect that if there's more people in a place, that there's more companies because they want to have workers. But then this is IT or digital, so it could be that a lot of people work remotely. And unless you find a really interesting outlier, so maybe, it would be a place where you have a small population but a high number of companies. Yeah, I think there's not really an interesting story to tell. I like the idea, but I think it's not really in the data something that, blows our minds. Because it says it's not where you expect, but it doesn't actually resolve the question of, well, where is it then? Okay.
This is Sri Patluri.
Is there a link? Oh, there is a link.
I was just lazy. Okay, well, first off, I think the hex map actually looks pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, it normalizes the size of the regions, which is much more useful. That's the first thing that caught my eye, which I like, and it also shows the regions that don't have any companies, which is nice. Now the chart at the bottom, I don't like having to rotate my head. I don't understand why that's turned the other direction, other than maybe that's the only place there was space. That could easily have just been a regular bar chart, a column chart, and just have the labels underneath of it or something. But also, I don't know what the length of the bar means. So there maybe should be some kind of labels or something, but it definitely needs to be rotated.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Sorry. Can you go back up a little bit? Yeah, I agree that the hex map looks cool, so I will definitely keep that. But the bars, like Andy said, it's too much work, especially because some of those names are quite long, so it's just a bit strange to read them on their side. What I like is in the description it says Midlothian. Is it IAN or AIN? Midlothian?
Midlothian.
Yeah, so there's a typo in there, is home to the EH20 Business Center. So I think that's something, insightful of why is that region, more popular.
And same with Glasgow.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, good.
Someone got stuck with a query. I don't know what the query is, but we're not going to do a tech session here. We're going to review Vizzes. Your question is probably better off in the forums. Okay, so this one, I think the first impression in terms of the design, that kind of edgy font at the top definitely looks like it, it works for that topic. And I know the author has written a blog post about how he built this chart.
Who is the author? I don't see it.
I don't see it. Well, scroll further down. Maybe it's at the bottom.
Oh,
there you go. Sankalp. I like the annotations. I just think it's a little bit too many, because typically, I guess when you have annotations, you have them for specific points, but here everything is annotated, which means that the whole outside of the country, because the map doesn't stand out anymore, and you just don't really, and nothing really stands out.
Well, it could be maybe moved around so there's a bit more space.
Yeah.
Okay, what's this little button here?
To see.
I don't know what a bar plot is. I call it a bar chart, and it's not a bar chart. It's a rounded bar chart. On the bar chart, the numbers are unnecessarily precise. So, I would probably go to 1 decimal place on this. It is a nice use of a button, though, by the way.
Yeah.
If you didn't create those icons yourself, make sure you give credit to whoever did. That's very important to the creators of those. Okay.
You know what what I think would be helpful, especially when people use a map. What if you go escape out? There you go. Especially when people use a map in their Viz, if they then maybe annotate that all those small places, or the places with the small percentage of IT companies, maybe just write, these are typically, I don't know, rural areas or whatever it might be, or they have very small population. Just so that people can see, okay, most people would recognize, Glasgow, big city there. But so that people know, well, what's the difference between them? Because I haven't seen anyone explain that yet. Okay. So there's a question. Is the issue with the geographic maps the lack of context regarding why the highlighted cities matter? Well, I think it's just, do you need a map, or could your Viz do without a map?
It's more like, does the location matter?
Yeah.
If the location's important, then great. But if it just happens to be where they are, then I wouldn't worry about it.
Yeah. I think, if you could see that there's one cluster really like all over the city, and then there's another cluster in the middle of nowhere, that would be interesting to compare. But if we're just seeing these like big regions, is that all that valuable? And there's another question. Oh, okay. Okay, so we have. There's a link.
What is this? Oh.
Excuse me.
Oh. Bless you.
Thanks.
This is by Kirti? Kirti, I'm going to guess. Bless you.
Excuse me. Oh.
That was unnecessarily loud.
I'm sorry. Okay. Regions where digital companies are based in Scotland. I guess we had the same chart before, but in the previous one we had the map, whereas this one doesn't have a map.
I think it's better without the map.
It's better without the map, but still has the same challenge that I need to read every word and every number to see, oh, they're sorted from top to bottom. Oh, 33% are in Midlothian and only 1.5% Scottish borders. Scottish borders should surely have two T's. So just thinking about what are you trying to communicate, and do you think if someone looks at this for the very first time, they will understand that?
I mean, if I was going to stick with this, I would probably not worry about including that gray space or that text in the big gray space. It's okay to have a space with nothing written in it.
Yeah.
I mean, it could even just say there's, and I thought it was like 1,603 or something like that.
Well, this is just the 71% number.
Oh, I didn't get that. So I might put a big number in there. It says 1,603 companies in Scotland or something.
Yeah.
We already talked about the precision of the numbers. Just make it one decimal. And I like how they're all below the line, so they're consistent that way. I would be tempted to right align them though. Yeah. So they all look the same.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Okay.
Can we skip any that have the hashtag DataFam?
Well, I've not included DataFam feedback because they,
I despise that hashtag.
I do too.
It's cringy.
But yeah, I mean, if people are wondering why they're not on the list, if somebody requested feedback via the DataFam feedback hashtag in addition to this review, then we're always going to skip it because we just think it doesn't need 3 people to spend their time reviewing it. We would rather give people feedback who have only requested here, and then Sam can do the same on his side. But you're welcome to change your mind every week. Okay, so this is from Pawan, and he's looked at Scotland's digital disparity. So I think if you make a comment or if you include a word like disparity, you have to explain it a little bit. And I know the thing that the label says, 71% are based in just 3 counties, but I don't know if that's enough of an explanation of why you call it a disparity. So I would annotate that a little bit more of why that is, bad or good or surprising. I'm going to click on this button. Okay, so I can change the background, which is really neat. And I think I have to say I prefer the dark one because the colors for me in the dark one just work a bit better. I like the alignment of the labels below, but they look like the labels for the counties are different font than the actual labels on the bars. So I would make sure they're all consistent. Do you see this this little change, dark and light mode? So yeah, anything to add from your side?
I actually think I like the dark mode better. But,
I do too.
Did you talk about the percentage here? Yeah. I don't think you really need the Pareto chart in the background. You could get rid of that chart in the background and just have the annotation, and I think it would be perfectly fine. Okay. What do you think about including the data source in an icon instead of actually writing it out?
I would write it out because of the reason we said earlier. Most people don't click on the link, so they wouldn't see it unless they clicked and interacted.
But it's good that you credited the data source and you credited the image, so yep. You can have this one.
Yeah, this one stood out to me because there's a lot going on given how little data there actually was. We've got a map, we've got a beveled pie chart, we've got these hexagons in the background that confuse me a bit, and then we've got the line at the top, and then there's lots of colors.
Where's the data?
Well, there's numbers.
Right. But I mean, if I have to ask that,
Yeah, so I
then
can
it's too much work.
hover over this line, but it doesn't actually like the label that is impossible to read at the bottom, and it disappears as soon as I hover off the line. I think this requires far too much input from my side to get very, very simple and little information.
It also makes me think that, like, why are the regions in the order they're in? So usually, if you're going to do a pie chart, you would order the slices. So to me, it makes it look like, okay, the green one must be the northeast.
Yeah.
The purple one must be the southwest. That's what it looks for me when you have the map on the inside, and the background is very, very distracting. It covers up it occludes the text. It's just very distracting and unnecessary. It's just decoration.
I agree, and I think there's some interesting points in the words as well, like in the text, but they kind of get a bit lost with all the color and the numbers and the background and all of that. So maybe just think about what do you actually want the audience to take away, and make sure to include your name as well on the viz. Yeah. So Okan asks, is it possible to get notifications when these streams go live? Yes, you can. Well, if you subscribe to Andy's channel, you should see it probably in your YouTube notifications, but also if you then I think it's something like register or remind me about this. So when you see a video pop up, we post them on Twitter. We we do what we can, but there's still an obligation on you to then actually go to the link. But you can say remind me about this, and you'll get an email notification as long as you don't have them switched off. Okay, why don't you take this one?
Well, it's not too dissimilar from the last one. The pie chart or the donut, whatever it is, really needs to go. It's a really, really poor use of a donut chart. Just make that a bar chart and be done with it. And then you don't need the colors as well. We've talked about the maps extensively. And it looks like the font on the numbers on the map are sized according to how many companies there are. Like, what's the point of that? Yeah, the map can go. The donut chart can go. You're left with a blank sheet. Make it a bar chart.
Yeah, and the prime real estate is taken up by 2020 week 33 Scotland. Like the stuff a bit, like the admin stuff about Makeover Monday doesn't even need to be there, but put it at the bottom because the most important thing is to communicate your data. And also, please do not use the Makeover Monday logo because that's for our use, and that's not really the purpose that it's meant to fulfill for people to stick on their viz. Okay.
The pictures.
All right. I think we've discussed maps extensively. What I noted here is, or noticed here is just, we've got those yellow circles on blue, which is a bit difficult to look at for longer, but then, the numbers, they don't mean anything in isolation, and there's a lot, again, on the left you've got this table. We need to hover to highlight in the map, but I think this doesn't work, of course, because it's an image, but why am I making all this effort? Like, what information is it going to tell me? There isn't really all that much in there.
I mean, yeah, the annotations on the map, it just tells me what the population is and how many companies there are. Okay, great. What if it was then the number of companies per 100,000 residents or something like that? That would be much more useful. And then maybe you compare that to the distribution of maybe you compare the distribution of the population to the distribution of the IT companies. Maybe that's something worth looking at. But the map isn't adding a lot of value. The table looks like where the important information is.
Okay. So,
fam review. Should we skip that?
oh, well, it's the wrong hashtag, so it's okay. So it looks like the title was taken from the original, maybe, because it's exactly the same font, but it's cut off. So 11, it should be regions. 863 companies. Company Connecting has gathered the data on where and how many companies in various parts of Scotland. There's something missing because it's not a complete sentence. And, okay, 71 companies are only from 2 regions. So make sure to...
3 regions.
I thought it was 3 regions as well. I'm not sure though. So check your spelling. And so how does this information now help me? Like I think it's okay. There's all this space taken up by information that's really contained in a sentence or two. I don't quite understand the use of the waffle chart. Anything to add? Nope. Okay. Now comes a really nice simple bar chart.
So, by the way, the reason I'm clicking on the images is because I want you to see how we can interpret the data just by looking at an image. Now, this one is exactly what we were talking about earlier. You know, you have the number, and then you have the percent of total next to it. Nice and simple. You know, the subtitle tells you exactly, you know, the insight that there is. Yeah, and I don't know. I think it's very, very good.
Yeah, I agree. I think this is really sharp. Maybe the subtitle could be a little bit larger, the font, because it seems to be smaller than the labels. And you know, it's interesting and it's nicely formatted. I would just make that a bit larger and maybe make the title a bit larger as well.
You're being nitpicky.
I know, but when people are really good with a viz, then I have to be nitpicky so they can, you know, pick up those small details as well.
Best one so far, I think.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, digital reform.
What are they reforming?
I don't know. I guess we'll see. Silicon Glen. I think that's actually something that is a term. I think I saw that on a previous viz. Where are the majority of digital companies registered with Company Connecting situated in Scotland? That's a bit of a difficult sentence because you have registered and situated in the same kind of thing. So maybe where are the majority of digital companies situated in Scotland that are registered with Company Connecting or something like that.
And then the text on the right basically says the same thing as the subtitle.
Yeah. So that's then not needed. You could just make the whole viz narrower, cut that part of the map off, and make your table narrower because that's really wide as well.
So, because the title, you know, the way even though the subtitle needs a bit of rewording, the map is actually just calling out those 2 locations, and the annotation just calls out those 2 locations. So I think that actually works okay in this case. The map, the table isn't needed. You could move the, you know, so it says Midlothian has the most digital companies at 603. You could also maybe put 32% in brackets after that or something.
Yeah.
But I think this is okay as far as the location of the map is concerned, because it's only pointing out 2 things and it's pointing out the insights.
Yes, and it also ties back to the subtitle. I think you said that. You know, where are the majority located? Not where are all of them located, because we can also see that, but that's maybe not as interesting. So yeah, so I think just a bit of formatting, tidy up, right? Maybe in the map you can simplify a bit because the blue background isn't really necessary. So you could remove that and just make the map a bit sharper so it stands out.
Yeah, I think there's a couple. I'm going to bring this one up. I want to try something.
Ooh, live demo?
Let's see how long it takes.
Okay. Well, there's no cutoff. We can go all evening.
No. Can't download the workbook. So what I was going to do was I would probably change the text in the box here to say, I probably just have it say since the subtitle says where are the majority located, I would probably say Midlothian, 603 companies, 32%.
Yeah.
Not has the most companies, because we could tell it's the most because it's the largest circle. The other thing I would do is I would probably make sure that the smaller circle is in front of the bigger one so it doesn't get lost. And then I would get rid of this table at the bottom. So unfortunately, the workbook can't be downloaded. So I can't change it.
Yeah, so if you ever want Andy to make over your viz live on YouTube, make sure it's downloadable. Okay, we have Lou Boss next, and he's created a tree map. And the bit that I first noticed when I put this list together is the kind of background, the strange background dots that make it really, like, it strains my eyes because it gets a bit kind of blurry.
It's a bar chart tree map, which is an interesting thing to do. So this is two tree maps. One is it's probably just it's just got a grouping top three and then everything else. So I think that's an interesting way to do it because you see how much those three make up of the total. So maybe not a bad use of a tree map.
I quite like the chart itself. I'm just bothered by the background because it makes it harder to see. Yeah, go ahead.
It's probably an image of it.
Let's see if we can do a very short, quick tidy up and make it easier to see.
Yeah, I think.
Oh, it's really large.
I think it must be to make it look like a circuit board or something like that. But, what do you think about the little icons? It has companies and the pie chart.
I just noticed it, but I think they're superfluous. They don't need to be there.
Okay, my computer tends to go slow when I'm streaming, so apologies for the slow response. Okay. So, all right, here we go. So let's see. So I'm suspecting this is a background image. So let's kill that.
Huh.
And then I would kill that. That looks good. Let's see.
Oh, the icons are gone because you don't have them on your computer. And the pie chart as well.
Oh, sorry, I broke something.
Oh, yeah, you removed the bracket. Okay, let's go into.
I might even do. Sorry, it's hard to see with the white background.
Yeah.
Okay, there we go. Something simple like that.
Let's go back to the dashboard and put it into that full screen, if you don't mind. It's really nice and clean.
There we go.
Well done.
Oh, the same thing would need to be done with the one at the bottom, but
yeah. Someone says he thinks the background is supposed to be tartan. Oh, really? Wouldn't that be green and red?
No, tartan can be blue and white.
Okay.
But,
isn't it a lot tighter though, like more of a pattern? Because they had a lot of gaps.
I would have thought they'd be much bigger blocks.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Right. So definitely better without the background, I think.
There was a question of whether we can use the Tableau Public Explore beta feature to remove the background. I don't know. I've never used it.
I don't know.
Let's see.
I've never actually used that feature, so let's try.
Moira was thinking Glenn played for the background.
Okay.
Oh, it works. Yeah.
So I probably could have done all of this, I guess, in the view. Now, one thing you could do though, instead of having two separate, it is one chart. So what is this here then? Why are there two charts in the view? What's this one? Oh, weird.
Maybe it's just so you can format the
I guess, yeah.
separately.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you for the suggestion.
Mike summons.
Data fam.
Okay. So I noticed this one and I thought that's a clever idea. I don't know if I love it because it makes it, for someone like me who is not super familiar with Scotland's geography and borders of counties, makes it a bit hard to relate it back to the map. Because not only, I mean, there are circles for the different regions, which I guess is the center of the region, but there's also circles on the image that's included in there. So, am I looking at the right thing, kind of thing. The light blue on the dark background, the percentage in brackets, I cannot read. I just can't see it, really. So I would make that white as well. This is where my tip comes in of, wheel your chair back or step back and have a look. Can you still read it from a couple of feet away? And this one I certainly can't. I mean, I'm sitting right in front of it and I can't read those numbers because the color just isn't contrasty enough. What do you think of it?
Yeah, I like you said, I like the idea. I'd be tempted. I'd actually really like to see what it looked like without the circuit board. So keep everything else the way it is, but get rid of the circuit board. And what would it look like?
Yeah, because is digital always like I mean, I guess it's not always technology. I mean, I'm thinking of digital like, things like social media. Sure, somewhere in the background you require a circuit board, but no one would connect Twitter with a circuit board. So, does this really represent digital, or is that maybe a bit too simplistic? Okay, Masato. Okay.
I'm curious to know how looking at this data made you want to visit Scotland. But first thing I noticed is the typo, where digital companies are based.
Yep. That's also the first thing I noticed.
Yeah,
and then it has just a greater than number, but it doesn't say that's the number of companies. It could be a number of anything. So just thinking about, if somebody looks at this for the first time without knowing anything about the data, would they understand it? And make sure to include your credentials and the data source. Yeah, I'm not quite sure bubbles are necessarily the way I would go.
Make it a bar chart.
Yeah, that's probably the short version of that. So in this one, it's two different versions if you go back and forth.
One is, at least the lines connect to
highlighted. Yeah, so the lines connect, but I find that while the map looks beautiful, if it comes to, if you want to do something about geospatial information, I find that it has too much detail for me to really see the circles and to understand what's going on. So the map to me is not simple enough, given that we're just looking at the number of companies in a certain county.
It could also be the color of that circle is very close to the color of the map. So maybe it's occluding it that way a bit.
And I see Rodrigo is back. Hello, Rodrigo. Okay. We've probably kind of covered this, but we've got the Pareto line in there, which I just don't know if, is it that surprising that in a country like Scotland, where you've got a lot of population in a small amount of places, is it surprising that most of the companies are in those very populous areas and a lot of the country is void of companies? Probably not surprising.
Yeah.
I mean, if you said in Australia, 80% of the population lives in 3 cities, it's not surprising because, well, there are 4 massive cities and that's just, or 5, but, it's not actually that surprising. So I don't know if the Pareto line really does it for me.
Something died. Oops, wrong button.
You broke it. think the bar chart without the line already looks simpler, which is nice. I think you're too fast for this web editing to catch up.
Maybe something like that.
Yeah, and you could put it in brackets if you want or not, but yeah, I think that's neat.
What the heck?
Why did it change the color?
Oh, it's the table calculation. Somehow the colors got messed up. But there you go. Nope.
I guess you could even just manually, recolor it or something.
Yep. Okay.
Okay, let's move on.
I'm just playing around with the new feature now.
Yeah. Somebody got you started. Okay, let's go to the next one, please. Vignesh. So that has the hex map again, which I think works really well in this data set because, like Andy said, it normalizes all the different regions to the same size. What I find a bit confusing here is that the regions that don't have any data, they look the same as the other ones, just without a number, and it's harder to see. So I would gray them, make them gray, so that the ones with numbers actually pop out.
I'd be tempted to put, since the call out says 71% of the companies are located in those 3 regions, I would maybe have those filled in blue with white text.
Yep.
And then have all the other ones that have data as maybe a light shade of blue, and then everything else is white. Something like that.
I like that. We can probably skip that one because we've done bar charts. Let's have a very quick look. But yeah, nice and simple. So with this viz, my first impression is there's a lot of white space, and that might just be how the picture is cropped because it could be more like a square. It just feels like there's a lot of empty space. The bars are quite thin. They could be a bit wider, but I like the simplicity of the map and that I have 4 cities as a reference point just to know my way around. And I guess the odd one there is the one in the far north, where there doesn't seem to be a big city, but quite a decent amount of companies.
I think another thing that's confusing is Dundee. The name Dundee is shown on the map, but it doesn't exist in the data.
Yeah, but I think those cities are just reference point. They're not, like Edinburgh is also not in the data as Edinburgh. It's whatever county it's in.
I assumed Edinburgh was that big circle.
Oh.
And I assumed Dundee was one of these 2 orange circles, and that this one was Aberdeen.
The cities are the grey circles, or the grey dots. And then the...
Yeah, but that just confuses me.
Okay.
This is first time using a background image. So we talked about this one that goes where everything joins in the middle, and how that's not very effective. What's the purpose of the background image?
Yeah, and is it something that's very typical? I mean, maybe it's a very typical Scotland image, something that people would easily recognize. I don't recognize it as such. To me, Scotland would maybe be something else in terms of an image. But the big question in the subtitle is, where are the IT companies based? But it's so hard to see on top of the image where it actually is. I think the viz itself is actually not bad, but the image distracts from it too much.
But this one has the same problem we talked about before, where they all go down into one location.
Yeah.
So I don't know which dot corresponds with which line on the right-hand side.
Yeah.
And the lines are different sizes as well.
Yeah. Okay.
Need to finish. We can skip Owen.
Okay.
Unless you want to look at it.
No, it's fine. We can skip it. I think we've covered those. That one has the same challenge again. We've got rounded bars.
Owen had to make over one of my visualizations today.
Did he?
From one of my first visualizations. Yeah.
Oh. I think this one I quite like the simple and clean approach. I would make the title a bit bigger. Also think about, does the font make you think of digital? I think digital is more of a, like an Ebony or something very simple font, because this is more like a heavy newspaper print kind of font. Yeah, that's all I have to say on that. Next
Background
one, again,
image
the background image is too much. Let's have a look at Michelle's before we finish, because she hasn't submitted for a while, because I think she was never able to really join live and join the live sessions and didn't want to take away from the others. So the font definitely makes me think like digital or tech. It's a bit pink for me. It's like, I don't mind pink or any other color, but it's just a bit too much for my liking because it's everywhere. So I would maybe use it instead to highlight something to call out and make the rest like a light gray. Maybe not white, because it's also the really strong contrast, but yeah, maybe a light gray.
Yeah, and I like the design of the chart on the right-hand side, the bar chart. It's a bar chart with the label above it, which looks really neat, and with the number and the percentage. So it kind of ticks all the boxes there. Yeah, it's something about that pink purple. I like the font, but I don't know what it is. I don't know. Maybe I'm overthinking it.
Yeah, I think it's. I wonder what it would look like. Can you go to and download her viz, please? I have an idea. Because you're on a Mac, so colors are a bit easier. And there's 2 people who have asked for reviews, so if you haven't submitted by the time I go put together this list, then you're just not going to be on the list, I'm afraid. Or if you include a DataFam feedback hashtag, then you're also going to be not included on the list, because then Sam will look at it. So just pick one or the other. Okay, so let's see what this viz looks like. Patience. Oh dear, it's testing us.
It's like watching paint dry.
I know, and it always feels so much slower and like it takes so much.
I always like how the elapsed time never actually increases.
Yeah.
Oh my god. I think it's just because of running the software for the live stream.
Okay, so I want to change the pink. Can you go to just one of the things and go to the format?
Uh-oh.
Patience, young Skywalker.
It's frozen.
No, it'll come. Nope. The pink broke it. I'm not going to ignore the DataFam hashtag. We've said this now 3 weeks in a row, so people please, like, just accept the rules are the rules, because otherwise the whole process doesn't really work. Okay, so color. Where's the color? Oh, it must be in the global form. Oh, there you go. So if you click, oh, can you go to the other colors thing, the pencils, and that one, strawberry. I don't know if that's going to be the right one. Oh, it doesn't. I'm thinking something that's worse. Just a bit more hot pink, like a lighter, brighter color. Maybe you pick one.
Is that the...
Okay, now it's back to previous.
Here, I'll scroll up there.
Okay. Oh, he must be playing on the VR. It's a bit too...
Okay. Well, whatever.
Well, yeah, anyway, I mean, Michelle can have a look what she prefers. For me, it's just too much of the pink, because then nothing really stands out. Okay, well, that's the end of our list. So let's go back to our cover slides. Any final words from you? Did you enjoy coming back to this review?
Oh, it was wonderful.
Oh, Andy, come on, a bit more enthusiasm.
It was fine. Yeah.
He has nothing to say. So next week, we're going to have another Viz 5 data set. and this review will probably be on Thursday because Seth is traveling on the Wednesday, and we want to make sure that he can join us. And yeah, Charlie.
I'll probably do a Watch Me Viz on Monday afternoon, evening,
Okay.
something like that.
So anyone who's on here and who's not yet following Andy and subscribing, make sure you subscribe. He does his own Makeover Monday Viz on Monday afternoon UK time. You can check out what he does. And yeah, so next week be prepared for a new topic. I don't need to know what it is, but I'll find out. And Charlie is going to do his recap when he comes back from his holiday in Scotland. And I hope everyone's doing well. And please, if you haven't yet, give us some feedback either under the video in the comments, or you can also do it on Twitter, and we're going to post the link to this if you've missed part of it or something, or you want to share it with your friends and your colleagues. We'll share the link on Twitter. And oh, Rodrigo misses Charlie. There you go. Boom roasted.
You can have him.
All right. Good. We're going to close it off here, and have a great rest of the day, everyone. And see you next week. Bye.
Goodbye, everybody.
Oh, enthusiastic.